Welcome in the final regular season WATD fantasy draft. We have reached week 8. We have separated out the contenders from pretenders, and damned if we don't have a good idea of who is going to be performing well by this point in the season. We are going to continue the draft into the postseason, but for now, our final regular season draft. So without further ado, week 8, Quinn Kelly, Johnny Rourke, Brendan Connolly here. The host of the Sports Exchange and the host of the WATD Fantasy Draft. The order tonight is going to be myself, Brendan, Johnny. Johnny came out last week and said, I need to pick up a win, and while the ledger isn't final,
No, it's final.
Matt Festa and others leading him to a big week. Robbie Peterson was really the big difference for you. He had an unbelievable game for Carver. We were on hand for that. 9 receptions, 153 yards, and 2 touchdowns. A few yards to go with it on the ground. He was excellent. That was a big pickup for you.
Yeah, he had a great first half.
Yeah.
That was pretty much all that was first half. He came out hot.
Brendan, for you also had a couple of big weeks. We're still waiting on numbers from your quarterback, Cam Burrows, but Mauricio Powell, another pick from one of our games, played for Brockton. Similar big first half, had a 73-yard touchdown rush mixed in there. He finished with 19 carries for 218 yards and a score. You also had a big day from Jacob Colstring, 162 all-purpose yards with a score as well.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be that type of a game for those guys. So I kind of figured, why not just take a shot? Even though they've already been taken on the air at some point, sometimes you just have to take some chalk picks.
Yeah, you've made a living off that, my friend. Well,
I've got some curveballs tonight. Don't you worry.
Oh, I'm excited to see him. All right, I will step to the podium first, and let's get this underway. Round 1, pick number 1. I am going to the wide receiver room first. I'm going with the guy who has not come off the board yet this season, and I'm going over to Milton. It is not Owen McHugh. I am going with Luke Salmon. Number 2, target, I think, in a lot of respects for Wait, I'm sorry. I said Owen McHugh. I meant Mike Fulton. Not going Mike Fulton nor Owen McHugh. Number 2 target for Owen McHugh, Luke Salmon. He's been good on the season. I'd like to see him pick up a couple touchdown receptions against Natick. I think he's going to have a good game in this one. Milton going to try to just keep chugging along. They're playing for a perfect season now. Healthy lead as the number 1 seed in Division 3. So just kind of trying to keep the train rolling. I'm sure Owen McHugh is chasing down some records. So I like Luke Salmon to be on the receiving end of a big day for McHugh. Number 2 overall pick, Brendan.
I'm going to go to Marshfield here. They've got a big game coming up against Plymouth North to cap the year. I feel like Marshfield's going to be running the ball a lot. So I'm going to go with Jack Marini if he's back.
Yeah, okay. So obviously this is the last week of the regular season, week 8. I'm declaring myself the week 7 champ, 3rd overall pick here. I'm going for back-to-back wins. I'm going Cassius Johnson at Scituate. I personally haven't picked him in 7 weeks, so I gotta finally do it. I mean, he's just a dog, so I'm gonna go with him. I went Festa last week. He proved that sometimes you just gotta pick the stars, and that's what I'm gonna do this week.
Yeah, I mean, he just gets numbers, right? Like that's all he does. He just eats up yards. I think that it's exciting to see because they've got a really dynamic ground game now. His younger brother Gio is also factoring in. So there's a lot of options for them, but he's still the top dog. And he's still week in and week out is putting up big numbers. All right, I'm going to kick us off here in round 2, and I'm going to go again. I don't like to do this, but I'd rather get somebody new on the board than worry about the optics of it. I'm going to a matchup that we'll be covering, and I'm going with Will LeBlanc, running back for Abington. So Izzy Ricketson down with an injury earlier this season. It's kind of been, pick up the slack by committee. I think this is a big week for Abington to try to get itself going. They've got Norwell coming into town. Norwell not playing for a playoff spot, but certainly playing for pride. Abington still needs to clean up. They need to get a big win here to try to give themselves some momentum heading into the D6 tournament. I think the way they do that is on the ground. I'm going Will LeBlanc. Brendan, round 2, pick 2.
I'm going to jump to the South Shore League here. Well, this is actually a non-league game. I'm looking at Hull's matchup with St. John Paul II. I'm going to go with Luke Richardson as my quarterback this week. I know they like to run the ball at Hull, but I feel like this is a week where they can get creative wherever they want in the offensive game. So I'm going to go with Luke Richardson this week.
The thing about Luke Richardson and their passing game that I love, first off, I love the matchup, right? They should run train on St. John Paul, just not really a good team this year. And again, when that pursuit of perfection is still in front of you, I know they want to close out the regular season undefeated. The thing I love about their passing game is that Luke Richardson, I think on the season probably has topped out at like 7 pass attempts. More often than not, it's in that 3 to 4 range. But every single week, it feels like they have a 40 plus, 50 plus yard touchdown. They are just a home run offense when they go to the air. So I like the pick for you, Brennan. I think that's he's efficient. He's going to get you a lot of points on 1 or 2 plays, and it's going to work out. So I like the pick a lot. Johnny, close out round 2.
Yeah, I'm actually going to close out round 2 by closing out my running back room. I'm going to go to the Pembroke Quincy matchup. I'm going to go Jack Tassone. I think that's a good matchup for them against Quincy. It's a game that they're going to want to win, and Tassone's going to be the reason why.
Yeah, he's again, that's 2 matchup proof guys with your first 2 running backs. Jack Tassone has had a hell of a season. And again, Pembroke's not quite there right now, but they're going to be in the postseason, and they're going to be a matchup problem for people. They play good teams well. And you said it. I think that they need this one to get them going. I think they're going to kind of pull out all the stops against North Quincy. So I love the matchup for them. Round 3, I'm gonna go back, dip into the wide receiver pool once again, and I'm gonna go with Justin Mather out of Middleborough. They've got a big game against BR coming up. Last kind of chance for a statement win against an opponent in a higher division. Middleborough scheduled tough this year. They've scheduled tough the last couple of years, and I think he's back to close to fully healthy. I think their running backs are, but I still think in this one they're gonna give Jacob Briggs the opportunity to sling it around, and Justin Mather is one of his favorite targets. So that's where I'm going here with my third round pick. Brendan.
Well, that was another name I was looking at too, because I felt like that Bridgewater Rain and Middleborough game is going to be back and forth. Both teams need a win. They really want to secure a good spot in the playoff standings. So I'm going to look at another good matchup here, another similar situation just between Patriot League teams. I think Pembroke and Quincy are going to be in a back and forth shootout. Johnny just picked Tassone, obviously. I'm actually going to take Pembroke's best receiver, Will McNamara, in this matchup. I feel like we're going to see a lot of offense because Quincy's backs are against the wall essentially here. They really need a win to improve their seeding if they want to have any shot in their playoff field. Pembroke, they just want to make sure they stay in the top 10, and they're going to be relying heavily on the run, but they'll mix in a few big passing plays, and I think McNamara is going to be the beneficiary of one. Or maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3. He does score in bunches for them. I agree with the assessment wholeheartedly. Big game for them. Johnny.
Yeah, so I went with Festa last week. That pick obviously is probably foolproof at this point. And he went a lot to Chris Walsh, who had a really good game last week against Hingham. I think they're gonna play really well against Whitman Hanson this week. But I'm gonna go with a different receiver. I'm gonna go with Adam Barr for Duxbury. I think he spreads it around, and I think they put up some points before they start to run the ball. And I think Adam Barr will punch one in.
I like that a lot. I think at this point in the season for them too, this is going to be a tough matchup. I mean, Whitman Hanson's defense is good, so this is where you kind of really test that mettle of the passing game. And I can see them trying to get everybody going in the passing and make sure we're all engaged heading into the postseason. Round 4, I'm gonna both quarterbacks. Both of you have quarterbacks. I'll save that for round 5. I'm gonna close out my running room.
I don't.
No, you don't. You did the lead in with Festa and you didn't. Yeah. So never mind. You don't.
When you think I'm going to zig, I zag.
The bait and switch. I'm still going to leave quarterback to the final round. I'm not entirely sure which way I want to go with that, but I know I want to have the leading rusher for Mansfield on the board. They've got Stoughton this week, and they haven't been challenged at all in Davenport play so far this season. So I'm going with Connor Curtis. He's been fantastic with them, 5 tutties on the season. So I'd like to see him at 5 touchdowns in 6-7 games, pretty good odds he's punching one in. So I'm going with Carter Curtis. Brendan, your 4th pick.
See, I'm looking at the running back pool here, and one of my curveballs I originally was going to look at was Davion Scott out of Holbrook, but I don't know if he's back from that injury yet. He got hurt in the very first game of the year, and I have not seen any news of him returning anywhere. So
I've been eyeballing that one. I think he did come back. I think he's not at 100%, but for the life of me, I can't find a way to get their stats. Can't even find a line to their coach. So I thought about that.
It might not even worth picking.
I mean, you can, because I think he's probably deserving of getting on the board. I know they have another kid who's been big for them, who I had looked at, but his name escapes me. But Davion Scott's super talented.
Coming into the year, Scott was expected to be one of the best South Shore backs, essentially, and he was just playing in a smaller conference.
Right.
This is the matchup where I think he would explode going up against this foreign team. They want to close the year on a high note, and I feel like they'd rely heavily on him. That's if he plays, but my backup, just to be safe, I guess. If he doesn't go out there,
I'm not giving you both. So if you roll the dice,
you know what? I don't want to take the risk. Then, it's too much. It's just too much. So I picked this guy at the very start of the year. I'm going to close the year with him. I'm going to go with Colin Morley because Situate's going to need him to win if they have any shot against Plymouth South.
Colin Morley, it is. Yeah, I mean that's preach on that. He's going to have to be a factor. I feel like it's going to be one of those games they have to slow it down too. I expect Situate to go to the ground quite a bit because it's going to be about shortening up the game against Plymouth South.
It's their strength, and Plymouth South is explosive. They want to keep them off the field, so just go to your best player.
Yeah, Johnny, round 4, or final pick of round 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna save my quarterback for my last pick. Kind of put the pressure on you. I don't want to make it easy on you. So I'm going to close out my wide receiver room. I'm going to go down to West Bridgewater. I'm going to go with Nate Anderson. I like the matchup against Bristol Plymouth on the Thursday night game. And I think he'll be a factor in that one.
I agree. It's a good matchup for them. This is a team that I look at and say, you're not going to get a let up from them any week because, they've got still some anger from last year being kept out. Go make a final statement if you're West Bridgewater. They've still got, they'd like to move up in the rankings. They're not in some, prime position. So I can see them getting around. I like them to go to the air there and see what they can get done. All right. Well, that puts me in a position to go take my quarterback here, round 5. And I'm looking at the board and I'll be 100% honest. I'm just not sure where to go. There are plenty of matchups that I like, but this is almost going to have to be a repeat pick. You know what? Screw it. I've got one repeat on the season. I'm not ruining the record now. I'm going with Andrew Novak. No, that's a repeat, isn't it? Somebody has Andrew Novak. Why don't you take him at some point?
I don't know.
I know I've taken JC Ham, I think.
Yeah, we've gone to Quincy before. Let's do a little control F here. No, all right, haven't picked him. I'm going Andrew Novak. It's going to be a tough matchup. It's the other side of that Pembroke matchup that you mentioned. Quincy's got to get a win here. They're playoff eligible, but they're going to need to gain some ground. So I like him to have a good game. And for as much as I love Pembroke, they've shown themselves to be susceptible to big plays at different times this year. So here's to hoping he can get one over the top on him at some point. All right, Johnny. No, Brendan.
I'm struggling because I have to pick a receiver here, and all the big names I feel like I'm already selected at this point. I'm trying to switch it up. You know what? Weymouth is playing Brookline this week, and I feel like Weymouth is the better of the two teams at this current stage right now offensively. And I feel like they'll rely on Aiden Henderson to make a touchdown grab or two here to start, and then they'll turn to the run game. So I'm going to go with Henderson, switch it up.
Not technically a switch up, but I like it. You haven't picked him, so Aiden.
I haven't picked him all year.
Yeah. All right. Aiden Henderson off the board. Johnny, the final pick of week 8.
Yeah, with week 8, the final pick, I'm just gonna have to do it again. I haven't picked this guy. I believe probably both of you have, but at the end of the day, I'm going for a win. It's week 8. I'm going to go with Will Baker,
Yeah.
Cohasset, playing East Bridgewater. Again, just seems like kind of a matchup-proof pick, and it's a good matchup for them.
Yeah, I mean, he does it everything. He could probably be drafted flat out as a running back if you wanted, and you could take either only his running stats or only his passing stats, and he'd be a solid pick for you at either position.
We
He's a
can't
monster.
Taysom Hill him.
Yeah, right. He's a monster for them. He's one of my favorite players in the area. I think he's still so underrated. I'm excited for the prospects of him running train through the playoffs. That closes it out. So start with myself. Quarterback Andrew Novak, running backs Connor Curtis and Will LeBlanc, and Justin Mather and Luke Salmon, my wide receivers. For Brendan, quarterback is Luke Richardson, running backs Aiden True and Colin Morley, wide receivers Aiden Henderson and Will McNamara. For Johnny, Will Baker, your quarterback, Cassius Johnson and Jack Tassoni, your running backs, Adam Barr and Nate Anderson, your wide receivers. All right, that'll do it. 8 weeks to this point now. So just kind of to preview what's going to be going on going forward for you guys. As we've been pretty transparent about now here in this particular edition of the draft, making a big effort throughout the regular season to get around to as many players as we can. We're going to restrict that a little bit as we get into the playoffs. And you know, it's going to be playoff teams only that are eligible. Want to pick kids in matchups that people have their eyes on. And you're going to start to see, like, we've got through a good amount of players here. I don't have the statistics. Maybe we can fire it out on our Twitter at some point. But we've covered a lot of ground with a lot of these picks. I'm really happy we've been able to do that. And you're going to see a lot of the stars that, you know, some familiar names coming off the boards in the next couple of weeks as we pare things down and make the march towards Gillette. So this has been your Week 8 WATD Fantasy Draft. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below. Check us out on Twitter at SE on WATD. Go ahead and give us a follow there. And yeah, continue tuning in. Main event Tuesdays and Thursdays on 101.1 WBMS. And of course, the flagship, the Sports Exchange, Sunday nights, 5 p.m. On 95.9 WATD. For Johnny and Brennan, I'm Quinn, and that is your Week 8 Fantasy Draft.